Good evening and welcome to Insight with me, Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Ever since demonetisation was announced, 21,000 crore rupees have been deposited in Jan Dhan accounts across India. The government is now exploring taxation options to investigate the source of this wealth. They also plan to amend tax laws to levy a 60% tax on unaccounted for deposits above 2.5 lakh rupees. Experts say not only is this an insurmountable task, it may not solve the problem as well. India needs a massive tax reform to weed out black money, and giving too much power to the tax inspector to arbitrarily question the taxpayer might backfire. On Insight tonight, we break it down for you.
If you thought your woes ended after exchanging your old cash for new, think again. That might just be the tip of the iceberg, because if the cabinet has its way, you may have to say goodbye to 60% of your deposits above 2.5 lakhs, which you are unable to explain to a tax inspector.
For every deposit which you submit in the banks above 2.5 lakhs, which you are unable to explain to your tax auditor satisfactorily, you will have to get rid of 60% in terms of tax as penalty tax, and you will get only 40% back. So essentially, for every 100 rupees above 2.5 lakhs, which will get scrutinized, which according to the taxpayer on a very arbitrary and ad hoc fashion, you are unable to explain, you will lose 60 rupees and you will only take back rupees 40. Now, it's fine in this context because it acts as a strong deterrent against hoarders, but the fact still remains that with the IT department suffering from a number of vacancies, with the IT department having the sheer volume of cases to sift through, whether it will really be effective or will it just be an arbitrary decision?
The concern comes from how arbitrary the entire system will be. Overworked IT officials who anyway audit just 1% of all tax returns filed every year on a random basis now will have to repeat the process at a much larger scale. And more worryingly, their decision will be final and binding.
I feel that, in my opinion, the government should bring such a scheme whereby if you pay, like last time 45%, this time in between 55-60%, if you pay tax, you are okay.
They need to be very specifically targeted. You don't target innocent people. And actually, in fact, they're doing that. But people don't know. You know, now it is all online. It's the computer decides which returns are to be scrutinized and which are not. So there is a very clear improvement going on, but nobody has communicated it to the people.
The government now has to walk a tightrope, make the guilty pay without hounding the innocent. But given the mountain of task ahead, is it better to let 10 guilty off the hook instead of punishing even one innocent? Bureau Report, NewsX.
Well, before we get into the debate, let's get you an expert view. We have with us Gurcharan Das, noted author and public intellectual with us. Good evening, sir. What are the income tax reforms, first of all, that you would suggest this government to consider?
Well, I think that the basic reforms that we are on to are the right ones, to bring down gradually our tax rate to ASEAN levels, and I would say remove the exemptions where we have a clean rate of taxation. And I would say at the same time, we've got to keep working at making the administration of taxation frictionless. The transaction should be frictionless. A lot has been done. I mean, today you can, you can fill your return online. You can send it online. You can pay your taxes online. You can get a refund online, and all of this happens within 6 weeks, and that's very good. What we need to do is actually advertise this to the country, because a lot of people today, after demonetization, are scared, and a lot of traders, etc., who never pay tax, they worry about harassment from the income tax department. So I would say to them that Today, it's a much more transparent thing. Discretion has been removed from the ITO. And so you'll never see the face of an income tax officer. On the other hand, the government should make an example by punishing any income tax officers who, they should be especially vigilant for bribery by income tax officials, and they should give exemplary punishment to show that at least they're not punishing the people alone through the demonetization, but actually punishing the people who are administering the reforms.
For those who understand tax, and that includes a lot of people in this country, there's a lot of uncertainty over what will happen next. The 60% taxation clause, the penalty clause for one. There are a lot of doubts. What can the government do? Because this is a government that believes in communication. What can it do to dispel this fear psychosis in the country at this point?
Yes, yeah, I personally think the best thing to dispel the fear psychosis, that's a very good question, is I would revive the amnesty scheme, maybe at a 50% tax rate. Today, as you know, brokers, currency brokers have come up. A new mafia has arisen, which is exchanging your old notes for the new notes. And there you can get them at a discount from 30 to 40%. But you're exchanging black money for black money. Whereas if you do a voluntary disclosure, then if it's out of current income, then you pay only a tax around 35%. But if it is from your past income, you can pay, say, 50%. And you'll sleep better at night because you'll have white money and you can put it in your books, that money. So it'll be a huge gain if they revive. And it will also give the feeling that this is not a dharma yuddha. We're not out just to punish people. We are out to modernize our economy. This is one step to modernize our economy. And people, this is an old habit of black money. What we are trying to do is incentivize you to operate in white and so on. The benefits will be huge at the end of the day for you and for the country.
Well, the government, we know, is looking at certain amendments that are likely to be implemented sometime next week. They are looking at a money bill. But what do you believe is the next step after demonetization in the larger war, as they put it, against black money?
Well, I think the next steps, I would say, first of all, let's go and attack the sources that create black money. One is gold. I would scrap the customs duty on gold, because the customs duty has encouraged smuggling. So we have two kinds of gold, smuggled gold and official gold, and this encourages people to use black money to buy gold. After 1991, we'd actually had a white market for gold, and we became like a modern country. You could buy gold with your credit card, with checks, etc., and so on. But I would say now that would be one step on gold. Second source of black money is real estate. Real estate, our stamp duty is too high.
Yeah.
The best step would have been to follow Kelkar's advice and subsume stamp duty as a part of GST. Well, that opportunity now is gone. But still we should fight to lower stamp duty, to clean titles in the real estate area in order to remove the evil of black money from there. A third area is administrative discretion. That is the biggest. The bureaucracy is the biggest source of black money. And for there, we have to reduce discretion in the hands of the bureaucrat. And I would say the best place to start is the Sri Krishna report of, and with that report, you can you will have a major impact. And finally, funding of elections. Funding of elections, most people's knee-jerk reaction is, let's have state funding of elections. Well, that won't be acceptable. People don't want politicians who they consider to be semi-crooks with family fiefdoms using their hard-earned taxes to fund political parties.
Absolutely.
And so, but other countries, there are best practices available in the world, from the US, some in Europe, which can reduce. Well, we have to raise the curb, the limit of white money that I can give as a donation by check to a political party. It's ridiculously low. So bring it out in the open and adopt some of those reforms. I think those are the next steps.
Thanks very much, Gurcharan Das, for putting it in perspective and explaining to us what the government is thinking and what it should be thinking, really. We are expecting some developments on the tax reform front sometime next week, but what does it mean for the average taxpayer, for you and me? That's something that we want to look at both politically and financially. And we have with us this evening Vinod Jain, founder, president of ICAI, Balachandra Mungekar, spokesperson of the Congress Party. We'll also be joined by P.N. Vijay, spokesperson of the BJP, in just a bit. Good evening to you all. Vinod Jain, to you first. The government, we understand, is treading a fine line, sir, when it tries to make hoarders pay, but it also wants to ensure that innocent people are not targeted. Is a 60% penalty the best way to go about it?
I think I, as a chartered accountant, will not like to comment till the time the fine prints are actually clear to us. Whatever we are talking at present is on the basis of certain newspaper reports that the cabinet possibly has approved some amendment to the income tax law, which has gone to the president of the country. The contents of the bill which has been recommended by the cabinet is not clear to any one of us. I think it is more guesswork which is happening. 60% penalty, in what circumstance, when it will be levied. I think a lot of fear has erupted all across the country after hearing this. And I think as a practitioner of tax laws over the last 35-40 years, and as a responsible citizen of this country, I like to say that the government has always been reasonable, and the government will not be unreasonable even now. I think that faith in the government is very, very necessary, because the message is loud and clear from the government that they will punish only those people who are dishonest, and punish them heavily. Now, if a person has cash in hand in his books of accounts, if he has been doing on a particular business in a particular manner, whether he was doing it in cash or he was doing it check, that is not very material. What is important is whether the money which is in which he is dealing is properly accounted for. There are several provisions in the income tax law which also talks about that maintenance of books of accounts is not necessary up to 2 crores turnover. So all people who are small and mid-sized businessmen whose turnover is up to 2 crores are not required to maintain books of accounts. Although some kind of books of accounts every businessman keeps because of VAT law, because of excise law and several other reasons. But as far as the basic provisions of the law requiring him to keep the details of his purchases, of his sales, of his bank entries, all accounting entries, the expenses, all that is exempted up to a 2 crore turnover level. So I don't foresee any major action, any negative action against small and mid-sized traders as well as professionals. So traders up to, or any businessman up to 2 crore turnover, or a professional up to 50 lakh turnover, there is a presumptive taxation scheme. And I don't think even if income tax officers want to examine him or examine him in whatever detail they want, so long as you have truthfully declared your income, maybe it is 30% of your turnover, or maybe it is 20% of your turnover, or maybe it is 10% of your turnover, or maybe even it is 5% of your turnover. I don't think income tax official will have anything to say. But one very important through your channel I want to actually communicate that on that I want to say about more particularly about ensuring that powers in the hand of the income tax officers to scrutinize the books of accounts is fairly deep.
Okay.
And in the past there has been allegations of all kind about corruption as well as harassment. And even I think the BJP election manifesto also talked about eradication of corruption as well as harassment.
Yes.
So this has to be actually very finely managed by the government, and I think government has already taken very important step.
Yeah, manage is the key word here. Well, the intentions may be great.
Will have no contact.
But management is something that is already being questioned, whether it comes to demonetization or this, and that is the real fear, that are you giving a lot of power to the tax inspector to arbitrarily question? He is going to decide whether you have accounted for your source of wealth or not, and does that not amount to harassment of the honest taxpayer as well? This is something that we'll have to wait and see, but these are the charges being made. Balachandra Mungekar, the government interestingly also wants to bring this amendment as a money bill. Some say they're trying to bulldoze any possible opposition.
So the question is that first since beginning, I think without having any comprehensive integrated roadmap plan for implementing demonetization program, regretfully the government has been since day one has been implementing on ad hoc basis. Whenever you are having thirst, then you are digging the well. Now the here question is, I am not income tax expert, but simple economics I am suggesting that, for example, in economy, you should demonetize the currency and prepare the roadmap in such a way that the people's savings and investment are not to be adversely affected. When government is declaring one or two measures or three measures every day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one in the evening, and one of them contradictory each other, it creates some sort of uncertainty. This will certainly affect the savings as well as investment. Now the second point is that government has to declare now, according to me, government is certainly, because the entire opposition is totally opposed, not to the, let me tell again the viewers, that as government is saying that except BJP and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they are only against the black money, and all the opposition parties are supporters of the black money, this argument is not acceptable. Every political party except Aam Aadmi Party and Trinamool Congress, they only suggest rollback. All the other political parties, including Congress, they are not questioning the objective, they are questioning the method, the harassment, the inconveniences caused to the people, and these harassment and inconveniences were avoidable. The last point in this matter is that in order to get the money back, there were two objectives. One, attack the fake currency, and second, to bring the black money. Now, it is simple elementary economics knowledge that people do not hold black money in form of currency notes, which is depreciating every year with 5%, 6%, 10%. As Mr. Jain was saying in the beginning, people are holding money in form of assets, 60, 70%. That is called ascent demand for money. Second point, government has declared that up to 30th of December 2016, people will be allowed to deposit about 2.5 lakhs of rupees, 2.50 lakhs of rupees. Now the question is, government says that you can only deposit, you can't exchange. Now the question is, this is creating a sort of uncertainty in the minds of the people. This will amount to earlier economic reforms has ended, they have ended Inspector Raj, they have ended the Controls Raj. Now this act will be giving just arbitrary power to the income tax inspector. And let me hasten to add, as the political system in this country, despite the fact that I am notional politician, the political system in the country is the main source of corruption, and the entire income tax department, the income tax collecting agency at all the levels, that is also the main source of corruption. And to give them the powers, already it was mentioned that the black money is transacted against black money. 2,000 rupee currency note was transacted. Now the black money, this has become virtually, after this 8th of November, Prime Minister declared the intention, it has become more commission-oriented economy. People are exchanging thousands of rupees, hundreds of rupees, or lakhs of rupees, even for the commission.
Right.
That's why government will do money bill, because government has absolute power, 283 members of parliament out of 583. But government, I think, should create an atmosphere where honest taxpayer is not harassed, uncertainty affecting adversely the investment and saving would not be taking place, and there should be some sort of stability in the short run, which is necessary for the economic development in the long run.
Right, PN Vijay, spokesperson of the BJP, is with us. Mr. Vijay, your party, your Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, in fact, has been thanking the people of India for bearing with the problems caused because of demonetization. As we look at this tax amendment that you're proposing and that is likely to be brought in next week, should we brace ourselves for more hardships?
Well, it is all in the realm of hearsay. But assuming some penalty is imposed, I think it is in line with the government's calibrated war against black money. You remember in the last 2.5 years, we have been accused by the opposition, let me say, of pussyfooting on black money. They said that Prime Minister Modi went around campaigning that he'll do his best to do, but what has he done? In the last 1.5 years, the government
Right, we seem to have lost that link. But Vinod Jain, I want to, you spoke about professionals and you spoke about small businessmen. As Mr. Mungekar said, I too am no expert on tax, but I've been speaking to experts and I've been reading what they've been saying. And this is what I came across. Income from agricultural sources is not taxable. Many farmers do cash transaction. So it's unfair to impose curbs on deposits and it is against the rules and regulations of the Income Tax Act. So when you say beyond 2.5 lakhs, if you cannot account for the source of your wealth, you will be taxed 200% is something that is unfair, say many.
Absolutely.
I think this whole thing is being misunderstood by everybody who is reading it, trying to hear from WhatsApp and other kind of messages which are coming. Nobody has copy of the bill so far which is proposed to be presented to the Parliament. I don't think the government will do injustice in that manner to agriculturists or any small and mid-sized businessman, and not even to large-sized business people. Because
but the finance minister said 200% penalty.
The
finance minister had said 200% tax, sir, when he announced that beyond 2.5 lakh rupees, if you cannot.
But it is important to hear Finance Minister very carefully. You know what Finance Minister has said, and what the government, even the Revenue Secretary has said. What they said is that in case you deposit more than 2.5 lakh rupees in your bank account, and if this deposit does not match with your income tax return, in that case up to 200% penalty can be levied. This is part of the law, Section 270A. Now the government is talking something little different, it appears now, in addition to what the current law is, that in case you are not able to possibly, in case you are not able to satisfy the source from where the money came in, I think they are primarily talking of large chunk of money which came in unaccounted money. Please try and appreciate what the government is trying to curb.
Sure.
We have thousands of, corrupt people. I'll be very short. Thousands of corrupt people who have the habit of depositing cash in one bank account, transferring to another, transferring that account to another account, then to third to fourth account, and route it in such a manner that nobody knows the trace ultimately where the cash was deposited. I think all such cases, people can come tomorrow, deposit cash in their bank account, and after 2 months or 1 month they can withdraw as much money as they want, then the whole purpose will be lost. So it is very important to examine all such deposits very carefully, whether they are business deposit or whether they are illicit money.
The fear is that in trying to catch those, will the innocent be targeted? And is the Income Tax Department up to it? They're working on 70% efficiency right now, more than 50,000 seats lying vacant. So how are they going to be able to scrutinize every deposit beyond 2.5 lakh rupees is something that they themselves have talked about. But I'm completely out of time here, so we'll have to wait for another day to discuss this in detail. PN Vijay, Vinod Jain and Balachandra Mungekar, thanks very much for joining us here on Insight. Thanks for watching. Athar is coming up next.